Call the meeting to order.
Jenkins.
Here.
Harden.
Here.
Hahn.
Here.
McKinley. Testori.
Here.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First thing that we have on this evening's agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Call it.
Jenkins.
Yes.
Hahn.
Yes.
Harden.
Yes.
McKinley.
Yes.
Testori.
Yes.
Motion carries.
There being no unfinished business, we move on to section 3, new business.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2015-27, $1,000 donation to the Farmer City Chamber of Commerce for the 2015 Christmas parade.
I'll second it.
Discussion.
Mayor, each year the Chamber of Commerce makes a request for $1,000 that helps offset some of the costs associated with the Christmas parade, paying for the bands, just various costs associated with that. We've been doing that for several years now.
Call it.
Hahn.
Present.
Harden.
Yes.
McKinley.
Yes.
Testori.
Yes.
Jenkins.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2015-28, the Farnsworth Group agreement in connection to the Prairie Ridge sidewalks.
I'll second it.
Discussion.
I brought this to you a couple of weeks ago, and we can't get an engineer, we can't get a feasibility study until we hire on with the engineers to actually get out there and do some design work on sidewalks. Part of the thought process, and there's something in my city manager's report later, but part of the thought process is to get some of that work finished that has never been finished over the years, because that's going to be the main artery when you go into the subdivision. So if there's ever any future expansion, you'll see a nice, pleasant area as soon as you come in. Keep in mind that I said that we were looking at upgrading the street lights out there, sidewalks, etc. So this is just part of it. So.
Sidewalks, as far as the parallel sidewalks to the street,
Correct.
shouldn't the developer be doing that?
It's in the original agreement that we would be doing it. I dug in there and found that, so. Now, in the plan, you could put on both the arterial streets, you could put sidewalks on north and south. If it costs too much, you could just put sidewalks on one side. That you could all determine after you...
But the TIF district will take care of that.
Yes, it would.
It will take care of all of it, wouldn't it?
Yes, it will.
Okay.
Yes, it will.
Does that include from the city to the subdivision along 54?
This is strictly in the subdivision.
So that doesn't include the section between where it ends there, that's exactly where, but along 54 where there's nothing there.
I brought that to the council a long time ago. People out there were, they objected to a sidewalk being installed to connect to that subdivision. So
I live out there and I've not heard any negativity on it.
the subdivision people want it. It's from the subdivision into
I
town
gotcha.
there was objection.
I gotcha.
That was maybe a year ago or a little bit longer.
Okay.
The things may have changed out there. Not knowing much about it, I went out and talked to everybody I could talk to. I talked to 20 of the people of the 36 that are out there. And what I found is that there's really there's nobody out there wants the sidewalks with the exception of 2 people. They want a path from in town to Farmer City. And there was the second thing they wanted was a park or some kind of play area. So, I mean, not having any input, not having any knowledge of it, I had to go out there and talk to people. And that's what I did. I spent the weekend going door to door, talking to people and seeing what they preferred. And there was very little enthusiasm for the sidewalks. Matter of fact, a couple of the residents objected to them. So maybe things have changed.
I live out there, I personally object to the sidewalks within the city and the subdivision. I would rather see something from the city that where it ends along 54 to the subdivision as a safety precaution for the residents that live out there that want to come to town. Because really, there's no way to walk along that road without any, being close to traffic or walking up into somebody's yard or such. So I think it would be a positive thing if we could do that.
Sir, why don't you identify yourself?
Kevin Johnson.
I talked to people more in depth. There was actually enthusiasm for a road from the subdivision to Water Street or some kind of a bike path or a trail.
Well, we're kind of getting off on something here, but there's a design already platted and filed with the county on that subdivision, so you would have to work something new into what's already platted. But we did bring it, just so you know, sir, we brought it to the council, the residents out there, not in the subdivision, but from the subdivision into town. They objected to having a sidewalk in front of their property.
I understand.
And so they wanted the sidewalk out there in the field behind that row of trees. But that property owner didn't grant us permission either, so it still made it, just so you know.
Gotcha.
So the question at hand, so we don't get off, obviously there are other things that we'd like to get out there. So the question at hand is to the sidewalk. And you're saying that when you went out there, overwhelmingly, they just don't want the sidewalk, or just?
Yes. Overwhelmingly, they just don't want the sidewalks on this parallel to the streets. They said they're cul-de-sacs, there's very little traffic, everybody knows they have kids there, so they drive slow, they don't see the need for it. A couple of residents who had built their homes out not using the developer said their driveways they would fight it because they don't want sidewalks across their driveways. Now their driveways are steeper than everybody else's and don't have the sidewalks built into them. There's just no enthusiasm for it. And I was trying to find out, what I was trying to do is...
There's a lack of traffic, is that what they're saying?
There's a lack of traffic. Everything's a cul-de-sac out there. Now they did say if the subdivision grew, then the sidewalks would become more important. But as it stands now...
Well, that's ultimately,
That's the goal.
that's the goal. I mean, you will note, and we'll be talking about this, I hope, in the city manager's report. This is something the city, at least my position, needs to move on and move on quick, is growing that subdivision, even if it, quite frankly, even if it means we're the ones investing. So,
I can only tell you, gentlemen, whether it passes or not, the sidewalks would be on the city right of way. Obviously, you don't want everybody up in arms out in that subdivision, but if you drive out there, it just doesn't have the correct appearance. There's no sidewalks in this subdivision.
and one of the argument, well, it's not an argument, but even in the community meeting, I mean, it was brought up that one thing that everybody else in the entire city would like to do is see sidewalks improved. Sir, I would prefer that you would fill up the sheet to speak before next time, but I am going to ask you this question. If we move to extend the streets and then attach it all the way to Water Street, and this is something we were aggressively doing in this next year, would you be objecting to see sidewalks out there? If you knew that this was something that we are moving hard on.
I would probably have to see the plan, but probably not as much, so.
Okay, you still would not be in favor of sidewalks out there if we were...
Not necessarily, I guess I would be more wanting to see if, because they're talking about putting them on one side or the other side, but not both. You know, I guess it depends on if it's on my side.
We wouldn't even know that until, of course, we see the plan.
The original plan would be to have them on both sides.
Right, but
Unfortunately, property owners have gone out there and they've planted trees on the city right away, And so at our expense, we would have to relocate those trees. The developer set a fire hydrant right in the middle of where a sidewalk would go, so we would have to relocate that. So there are obstacles. It would be a matter of which is less damaging because of driveways. There are some driveways out there that would make it awfully difficult for a sidewalk to be ADA compliant. So that's what would kind of determine where the sidewalks would go as far as are they on the north or are they on the south. That part would be somewhat on a feasibility standpoint.
The one thing that probably should have been done when the subdivision was those houses were being built, we started building sidewalks right then, and that got screwed up. So that we wouldn't be at this position we are today, and everything wouldn't be in the wrong place, and fire hydrants sitting in the middle of stuff, people would be planting trees there. So if we do this again, as far as maybe expanding that subdivision, maybe I think we're going to get that taken care of right off the bat, since it's our responsibility to do that.
Absolutely, yeah.
But we're here today to, if I want to vote to spend money, I want to vote to spend money on stuff that people want. That's going to be good for the community. And that's what I needed to find out. I'm not saying that the sidewalks are yay or nay. I'm just saying this is what the people wanted.
Any other
I mean,
thoughts?
you got to get the engineering started so we can go there. We haven't.
Right.
This is something we got to do anyway.
Right.
So
Is the engineering just for the sidewalks or for?
Correct. Not for lighting.
It's $23,000 for
Correct.
the engineer.
That's a TIF expense. It's in the TIF district, it'll come out of the TIF fund.
Any other discussion?
If, sounds like they're not interested in sidewalks, save that money for the additional.
well, you're going to have to do it anyway. I mean, if we start doing this, you just
If this
might as
23,
well start now to get things put in place.
if this 23,000 that you're talking is for specifically those sidewalks,
Yes, sir.
We don't know what's good, but I can get the ball rolling right now if we're going to have this. You know, there's no, like I said, we waited as long as we have right now. We got to do something in this place.
Is this the least expensive engineer?
This is this engineering firm that we've always used, Scott. We don't go out there and shop it around for an engineer for this and an engineer for that. That can be kind of dangerous. They don't. Farnsworth has a file with everything every project that they've ever done in the history of the city. So we've just always used Farnsworth. I can't tell you that they're the most expensive or the cheapest. I don't know.
Well, it is-
None of them are cheap,
Yeah.
flat out. We've used engineers in the past. We've used some out of Champaign one time for something, and it's just, you know. But I would keep track of them. I would make sure that they give us a report and question them, because they need to be questioned as far as I'm concerned. You need a file of things that we do and all the engineers to make sure we don't get, I don't know if we do or not, but, and make sure when they send us a bill that it's on there what they did before, not just send us a blank bill and say, hey, you need to pay us.
can we direct this money that you're talking about to vote on tonight somewhere else other than the sidewalks for the homes?
No, you would vote it down and then, no, just
So-
specifically for the sidewalks. So,
But the money being spent on this is a TIF expense, so if this were to be voted down, that TIF money would still remain there.
and then you can spend it at a different
But
place.
yeah, you wouldn't redirect specifically that, but yeah, to answer your question.
Any other discussion? Well, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, so again, just to expand on this, to make sure I understand it fully, this is just for the engineering, we're obviously not saying put in the sidewalks. This is for the engineering, figuring out where everything is, what's gonna
Because
go.
all of that, Josh, would have to be let out for bid anyway.
Right.
We're using TIF funds.
Right.
So that'll be down the road, and that project won't be until warm weather.
Right.
It's too late in the year now to be worrying about putting sidewalks in, especially approximately 2,500 feet of sidewalks.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, this
So we would
does
have an
go,
engineer in place
right, we'd have
for
the design for the infrastructure ready, and this would, I believe, help us in connecting further too, because we'd be ready to go on that too. Okay, thank you.
What is it going to tell us? the engineer?
It's the design of it, Scott.
And sidewalks
And it has
are,
to be designed by an engineer if you're going to use these TIF funds.
okay.
Public money.
And the amount of the money that would be involved in, 2,500 square feet is going to cost you quite a bit. And because keep in mind, that there will be some driveways that's going to have to be reworked too.
Well, and that's, are the driveways at our expense or the homeowner's
It has to be at our
expense?
expense, yes. It would have to be. If you're going to put a sidewalk in, it's got to be ADA compliant.
Right,
So if there's an issue with the driveway, then it's going to take an engineer to figure out how to make that driveway correct and the sidewalk correct. So, there again, this isn't for the construction, this is strictly engineering.
Do you have anything else? Honestly, I foresee a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of tip dollars being invested in this subdivision in the next year. I think this is starting it off. This has to be our focus. If this community is going to grow, this has to be our focus. Unless we've got new land hidden somewhere else, we've got to start this. So, call it.
Harden,
Yes.
McKinley,
Yes.
Testori,
yes.
Jenkins,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
motion carries.
I make a motion to approve resolution 2015-29, $1,000 donation to the Farmer City Garden Club.
I'll second it.
Discussion?
Generally, we have in the past given the garden club $500. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to cover their expense, and they have trouble trying to get funds from other venues. This year, they've asked for $1,000. That's to cover some of their expenses that they've already had handed to them, and so that they can do projects moving forward. If you see that they've really worked that hard over here, so they've been trying to do a little bit better. And we've talked to them too about having some flower beds in different areas around the community, something similar to what Champaign does. So they seem receptive to that.
Who leads the garden club?
I'm not sure who's in charge of it anymore because it seems like there's always somebody different that comes in.
They do an absolutely fantastic job out here. I mean, I don't know, just absolutely in love with the work that they do. Hardworking folks.
Who participates in the garden club?
It's a bunch of women, but Scott will gladly take it.
Yeah. I see Kurt's here. I wonder if they could get some volunteers out of his group.
There you go.
They need some help.
You need to-
Schools, school kids could help, yeah.
Anybody that wants to.
volunteers. definitely.
Anybody that wants to. I know that they are and I've seen it, they have a Facebook page. When they are getting ready to do some planning, they'll call say, hey, we're going to be at this area, and you feel free to help. So
Well, if I have to help, I'll help. That's all right.
it's
I'm trying to figure out if they will solicit help from the school or anybody else. We're giving them the money. Will they solicit help from other people actively? They actively do it.
I have seen them actively seek
Okay.
out other volunteers. Yes, they are open to as many people as possible. So, any other discussion? Call it.
McKinley,
Yes.
Testori,
Yes.
Jenkins,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Harden,
Yes.
motion carries.
Make a motion for approval of a Class A1 liquor license to the Garden House, 221 South Main.
I'll second it.
Discussion?
This was discussed back in late summer. Brenda Baker down at the Garden House had stated that she was interested in getting a liquor license, and we had checked in the books. And if you remember correct, there was some wording that was used, and/or. And I had said that to me that meant that there was a license available, but I was asked to check with the city attorney. The city attorney said that wording never should have been used, but because it creates a cloud, the city council should vote on this particular application. That's why it's coming before you tonight. I talked with Brenda, I asked Brenda if she wanted to be here, and there was some stuff going around town which has got Brenda pretty upset. So she didn't want to be here tonight to make any type of presentation. So I told her that I would pass on what she has told me. She firmly believes that she has to head this to keep on going. Selling flowers just isn't a real hopping business in a small town like Farmer City. If there's a funeral or something, she may get part of the business. She doesn't necessarily get all the business. So she wants to have this little room in the back that's already been fixed up. TIF money has already got that room ready to go. So anyway, she has said that it's her belief that if she's not granted this license tonight, she'll close by the end of the year. She did want me to make sure that you knew that, so.
But she's not a resident of the community.
No, she's not, but she has an employee that would be listed on the license.
You can't do that either, not unless the employee is listing, renting the building, or leasing the building. I mean, you need to read this thing before you let them start filling out stuff, because I looked at it this afternoon. I mean, she can't have it. She's leasing the building. The person that's getting the license has to have that lease in their name and everything.
Any other discussion?
So I'm hearing we cannot approve it because of the...
Well, you can approve whether or not...
You can vote yes if you
You
want
can
to.
vote yes, the approval of the Class A1 liquor license to the Garden House, but I mean, she would have to be in compliance to get it, so yeah, you can approve it, but there's that issue. I mean, I think that there are a whole slew of issues other than that. And I think, I mean, it's very unfortunate, because the last thing I want to do is act in such a way that causes, or I don't think it causes a business to fail, but I guess lessens the likelihood of a business succeeding. But at the same time, I know that I have other organizations telling me the same thing, that if we pass this, their business is going to fail. And I'm struggling on this one. I know that you did some studies that in regards to the gambling, that by passing this, the gambling board is telling us that there will be no increase to tax or to the revenue to the city. It'll pull gamblers from other places, taking away their revenue to feed that. So, I mean, I'm struggling with that. And I'm also struggling with the number of liquor licenses that we have in this community. Fact of the matter is, we have 2,100 people in here. And the recommendation is 1 liquor license per 700. That's what we have. We have 3 establishments right now, 2 bars, and we've got the American Legion up there.
Right.
So if we oversaturate it, am I killing somebody else to do that? And I had asked, and I asked you, and I know that you did, I asked the garden shop to pull this and wait a couple of weeks and talk to you and give me some, I needed more assurance.
Where she lives has no bearing for me. She's a business.
It's an ordinance, though. I mean,
I talked to the liquor commission, and they gave me some numbers. I did some comparison of towns. Anywhere from 700 to 900 people is what a community needs to support a bar, not patrons, residents. The gambling commission assured me that we are saturated on gambling machines.
Well, and not to interrupt, but you have to understand what she wants to do down there, okay? It's too bad she's not here, but she's told me so.
I wish she
I'll
was
pass
here.
it on. What she wants to do is to have this room back there for ladies and older clientele that don't want to go into the bar. So she's not going to take away from the bar, because her clientele wouldn't go into a bar, is what she is saying. So she's not going to take away from the alcohol sales, Scott, from any of those businesses or a gambling machine. She said that she's going to be bringing in people from out of town, older ladies out of town that want to get out of that style, or whatever you want to call it, and come down here and be able to relax, enjoy, and have that privacy down there in her business. That's what she's striving to get.
So is she wanting a liquor license to serve alcohol, or is she wanting a liquor license to get the gaming?
because they're tied together, she tried to get a couple of the gaming machines back in there, and they will not issue those if you do not have a liquor license.
So is she gonna sell alcohol?
Wine,
She gonna sell?
yes.
Is she restricted to wine only? Is that what you were saying?
Wine and beer is what she would have.
Well, that's what the bar serves, is wine and beer.
I understand.
Liquor.
But
She's
they're
not
going to
restricted, she's not restricted to that. She has an A1 license, an A1 license says the only thing you can't do is sell package. You can sell
Okay.
everything else.
I mean, they're not going to go to the bar.
I mean, I really wish she was here to talk to her, because that was big for me.
And I appreciate that she'll sell to her clientele, so she will not sell to their clientele, correct?
That is what she is saying.
If they come across
Whole
the
different
street,
clientele.
yeah, that's my point. I
But
mean, it's still a set
They walk in the
operation.
door.
If they walk in the door, she's not gonna turn them away.
Understandable.
And I'm not trying to protect the other bars. I don't believe the market works that way. But what I found out is if she doesn't draw from outside the community, all she's doing is drawing the revenue off the other bars. And the city financially, she'll gain, but the city won't gain. All it does is divide up. When Huck's opened up their machines, there was a huge gain. When the Diamond opened theirs, there was a huge gain because they was the only guy, then somebody else got it, then Huck's opened. When the Legion opened, they just drew off the other two bars. There was no substantial gain in revenue to the city.
Be glad Casey's didn't do it because they were going to.
Okay. Well, and that's kind of where we're at, yeah. And I would hate to, honestly, I'd hate to say no to her and then turn around and have Casey's want to do it.
Well, Casey's they wouldn't have to ask. All Casey's would have to, because they already have the liquor license.
They already have the liquor
could apply
license.
for a gaming license
Yeah.
and then just be
The
done.
gaming license has nothing to do with us.
So,
Well, I know it is.
well, let me ask,
I understand she wants her business to succeed, and I don't want to cause her to not have the opportunity. But but from everything I've done, business model wise, it's not a good plan. And that's why I wish she was here to say so.
If she elects not to be here, that's her problem. That's her choice. I can't feel sorry for her that she's not here. I'm not going to feel sorry for her.
I
She
appreciate,
wants a business, she wants to do this, she needs to be here, stand up in front of us and tell us what she wants to do, not go into a survey.
I do appreciate the free market, and I appreciate a free market argument, but at the same time, I mean, when do you have enough license? I mean, we're gonna continue to open this up. I mean, the question is gonna have to come back to us, the and/or. Do we need to strike that anyway? So, I mean, if we pass it, there's our answer. If we say no, that license, the argument's still there. We've got to you're gonna have to make the argument, does that need to be removed?
The Gaming Commission has told me that they have businesses, they have barber shops, beauty salons, oil change shops, all these little oddball businesses are getting liquor licenses to get the gaming machines, and that's a flaw in the state's regulations.
Yeah, I mean, it's
It's up to each individual community to do these sort of things. If they want to give those licenses out to those people and do that sort of thing, that's what they can do. That's why we're all individual in our own right. I know that one community, I think it was up in northern Illinois, they had a $6,000 fee, just an application fee, before they even got approved for the license.
And you're saying she's gonna have to carry dram shop insurance, and this is gonna increase her expenses. That's not my business, but it's,
Yeah,
That was
she's got to have, there's rules that she's got to follow. For one thing, she's not in the township, and that's what it says, a person who is not resident of Santa Ana Township, DeWitt County, and to the extent required are allowed by the Illinois, they cannot have a license. So she's not a resident of DeWitt, Santa Ana Township, which I think that needs to be changed too. They need to be a resident of Farmer City.
for an A1. All right, any other discussion on this? Call it.
Testori,
no.
Jenkins,
No.
Hahn,
No.
Harden,
No.
McKinley,
No.
motion carries.
The other thing that we need to do in regards to this is probably that A1 needs to be, that's too confusing. That's just separating, let the A be the license, they want to sell package in the bar, they can do that. If they don't want to sell package, they don't have to. And we do have a package privilege in there too, if they want to pay $200, we'll say we can do it that way. So, but I would get rid of A1 because that is a confusing thing, and I don't know who put that in there. I know there was a time when there were just only so many licenses and that. And they did this whenever they went to Sunday sales, when they went to Sunday sales.
Goes to city manager's report.
I've only got a couple things left here after going through those resolutions and stuff. The light plant, I told you maybe a month, 6 weeks ago that we had upgraded a street light out here, and I was hoping to get some feedback from the community and from some of you fellas. We're going to go ahead and move forward with that project. If you look on here, initially the entire project to upgrade the street lights in downtown, the entire business community, would be $18,580. Through IMEA though, we've got approximately $5,235 laying in there in energy assistance. So that will cut it down to $13,344. And in time, we'll get that money back as well through the energy efficiency. What we're going to do is we'll have all new globes. We're even going to have a brighter, wider light than what's out there right now. That's a 22-watt lamp, and we're going to order 27-watt lamps. Now, 5-watt may not sound like a lot, but Mark says that it will actually be a noticeable difference than what you see right here on the corner. It'll give a better light similar to what's in downtown Leroy. Well number 11, I'd already put on here that the company was supposed to be here sometime this week. They showed up today, and what they found, they pulled the well. They think that there's actually a hole in the casing. The motor had a hole in it. They think that the motor continued to run, and the pressure of the water put a hole in the casing. So now the company should be here tomorrow. They're going to send a camera down into the casing to see if there is a hole, see why we were pumping some sand and silt. The motor's got to be replaced. Quite frankly, gentlemen, we don't have an estimate. The 65, 75 is out the window right now, so because of what we found today. We're always going after legal notices, we're always going after ordinance violations. At the town meeting, they're talking about cleaning up the community. We can only do so many at a time. And I saw where there was some negativity put out there about the house on South John. Just keep in mind, and I think you guys should know, you fellas should know, that 345 South John wouldn't look as nice as it does right now had we not pushed them. We forced them in court, and so that's why it turned out the way it did. So we really didn't want that thing tore down. We wanted it fixed up, and that's the end result. Right now we're going after a property over on 701 West Olive. I don't know if you know where that's at. There's a house that's run down, it's uninhabitable, over by Arbor Apartments. And I've gotten several complaints from that little group of people out there in the Lamb Edition about getting something done. So if you're not familiar with it, go for a ride. You'll be surprised just how bad that house is. Legal notices are being put in the paper about that, so we're going to have a court date due here real soon. And then one of the last things is I've been swapping emails back and forth with Stuart Drake. Stuart is the owner of the Prairie Ridge subdivision land that's not developed. That entire area has been platted out. Houses haven't been built out there, and don't get me wrong, I realize there's 2 new houses, but I think there's only maybe 1 lot left out there for residences. I've been talking to Stuart. I've just been trying to throw some stuff out there. It really appears that Stuart is warming up to the fact that we could move north, go with 1 more lateral street. That would open up for 24 lots for some new houses. So I think that would be quite an accomplishment to get that going out there. With that, we were hoping, and I had told Stuart that we were discussing about sidewalks and street lights and all that to make that subdivision look a lot, have more eye appeal. And that really seemed to make a big deal with Stuart. That really was a selling point. So I'll keep you guys abreast of how that goes along as we continue to move forward. I'm hoping that we can order up an appraisal here soon of an area large enough for that, 24 houses. I'm guessing it's somewhere around 20 acres. And then Keith Moran, who was here, our TIF consultant, he did call. He started to gather some information. He's doing the mapping overlays right now. And he said that after he gets some of that done, sometime in November, he'll be checking back in with the full council. And at that time, he would be ready to also go ahead and start talking about the business district. So he wanted to get some of this other lake work done. The gal who was with him was going on vacation, so that was going to hold him back a little bit. So that's what I got, gentlemen.
When I was talking to the people out there, I think there's, you may be right on one open lot, but I think there's 3 open lots out there.
There may be.
Got it. Well, they were saying that they didn't think the people that owned them were going to do anything with them. I don't know if we can motivate them to build something or not.
Any other non-agenda items?
Just a little bit on these lights out here. I personally don't care for this yellow look that we've got, where they can be a different color.
Right, it's the white.
It's white.
Right out here by Pikeman Law Office. That was our trial run that we did, and it's been like that for quite a while. Keep in mind, that's a 22 watt, those are 22 watt lamps, and the new ones will be 27. So white, and then new globes will also help.
Do you know when this will take place? The new lights?
That's Mark's project. Mark has had some issues come
Yes,
back up,
yes,
so relatively soon would be fine.
New round globes or new
Yes,
lights?
new round globes, because unfortunately that particular light that was ordered, the round globes is all we can find that'll work on it, so.
Any other non-agenda items?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You're glad you went to Chicago, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
First time there, right? To that. You go back again, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. One of the meetings I went to was held by Kathleen Field Orr. She's an attorney, as most all the meetings are held by attorneys and everything. She brought up something that I thought would be kind of interesting for this town and maybe for other communities in this area. Since we were talking about people wanting to get things straightened around this town, make it look better, that's kind of the thing the other night at that meeting. A lot of people want the town cleaned up, and there's a problem with that. There's a lot, and the sidewalks were brought up, and I've been talking about sidewalks for the last 2 years since I've been here. I've been barking about that, and so I think we need to start looking about sidewalks. 2 ministers brought that up, about cleaning the town up and about the sidewalks. This lady, and the one problem we have, I think, is giving tickets for ordinance violations, because we don't want to do it. This is what she came up with and found out, she checked into it to see if it was constitutional or not, is having a hearing officer. We write the ticket, and the hearing officer is going to be here every third Thursday of the month or something like that, let's say. And anybody that got a ticket, they can come in and plead their case to the hearing officer. The hearing officer, the way I'm understanding it, would probably be an attorney, a trained attorney for this position and everything that would be in the area, and they would, maybe you got other towns that would be interested in it, that might be one thing, versus, because there's going to be a fee go along with this thing, as far as the attorney goes, you'd have to pay that. And, but I thought, here's a way that we can get our police force writing tickets, they're going to be out of the picture. It's non-traffic, they're out of the picture, they see an ordinance violation, ordinance violation comes in, you can sit there and write the ticket, and then it can go before the hearing officer. They said the hearing officer would give a decision that night. There would be no, I'll give you a decision in 2 weeks. It's right now. But the ordinance, one thing he did say was, because she had one there that talked, and he said the ordinance needs to be clean that we're giving the ticket on it. It has to be a good ordinance where it's going to stand up and there's no discrepancy, any question about it anyway. So I'm going to give you this. You do whatever you want to do with it, and present it to you. You can go from there.
This was one of the things that kind of touched base with you, is we could reach out to different communities and share. That's a good idea.
Can I throw out there that you already have that process when it comes to vehicle impoundment? If you look at that ordinance, it's set up where there's a hearing officer. We've used that hearing officer twice, and that was our city attorney. He came over, he listened to the complaint, and he ruled. So we do use that process now, just so you know. So we can tune all the ordinances towards that, if that's what you want to do.
So if we want to expand the use of him, we can do that.
Which I think is a good thing to do, is because, because it seems like we don't want to write tickets this town except for traffic. We can write all the traffic tickets in the world, but when it comes down to writing tickets for anything else, but that's another thing too, going to these meetings, you sit in on certain meetings and everything, and there's other towns that do that are like us. They do not, they wait for somebody to complain, and maybe, the complainer doesn't want to face the one he's accusing, and so we don't complain. We don't file out the report and everything, because they feel, I don't know if the report is kept silent or not, if they know who their accuser is. And that is an issue in this town. The people, I'm not going to go up and say anything because they're going to find out who I'm going to get retaliation. There's no retaliation in this. They come in, they have to sit down and then be judged for what they did wrong, and they pay a fine.
Didn't we have a part-time officer who's gonna start writing tickets for?
Yeah, we have an ordinance officer.
Not write tickets for it. He goes out, Scott, he makes the initial contact with them. If they're compliant, then there's nothing else done. Other than that, then he'll follow up and send it to the city attorney. So they don't write a ticket for it. Now, back early this year, the Supreme Court, Illinois Supreme Court, changed the complete format of notices to appear. So while that was all in limbo, you could not write a notice to appear. Now, I will tell you that the police department does have the new notice to appears that are Supreme Court compliant, so that part wouldn't be an issue as far as being able to follow up and issue an NTA. So
This was to get away from going to, say, Clinton, in front of a judge and that sort of thing. It's a local type thing. You're kind of going back to a day of a police magistrate, so to speak.
And I believe,
you don't know.
I can't tell you verbatim what's on the new notice to appears, but on there are directions so you can pay. Obviously it's local, so you pay it local. It keeps you out of court. It saves the violator money because there's no court time, court fees invested in it. So that was part of the changing of the format of the notice to appears. So
Walk me through an ordinance violation.
what kind do you want?
Mowing your grass.
Let's just
That's a good one.
what?
Mowing your grass.
Mowing your grass. Well, first of all, it has to be to the height that it becomes a violation, which, get me wrong here, I believe is 12 inches. By that time, it's pretty hard to mow it, but if that's so be. You knock on the door. I'm going to tell you how I did it, okay, Mac? It's the best way I can do it. You knock on the door, you tell them it's a violation, they need to get it mowed, they need to get it mowed right away. You give them X number of days, it's generally 10 days, to get the ordinance violation corrected. If you go back at that point in time, you could issue them the notice to appear, or you give them additional time.
Could you give them a ticket at that time?
The notice to appear, Mac, is the ticket.
Is the ticket.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that would be your ticket, yes. So yes, you could.
There's the
now,
fine.
some of the ordinances are written different. There's no uniformity in the ordinances on how much time this is or how much time that is. So, and while I write you that notice to appear, doesn't mean that grass is going to get cut. It's like a barking dog. You call because you listened to a dog bark for the last 6 hours. The officer goes down there and he asks them to quiet the dog down, and they don't. He writes the notice to appear. The dog's still barking. See, so it's not a quick fix.
Okay, I don't mow my yard, I get it, and they come, they tell me that I gotta cut it, and I still don't cut it. They come in, they give me notice to appear. At that time, I'm fine there at that time?
No.
Okay, when do I get fined?
You have to be given a court date.
Well, I tell you what, Urbana will motivate your butt to move some stuff.
Well,
You just get fined.
That's right, you can write the ticket right then. You can just still write the ticket. Your grass is too tall, boom, here's the ticket. Hearing officer's going to be here next Tuesday. You can come and plead your case.
I'll tell you what.
If you take care of the problem before next Tuesday, you're not going to get it taken, maybe you're not going to get a fine.
Now, can any of our officers do this? This is what I think's going on. I think we see things, and for whatever reason, we don't deal with it until one of us says something.
That's true.
And I think,
We don't have, well, it's not our job. It's not our job to sit there and come up here and start complaining, saying, well, they say that's not right, you know, or that they want us to do that for them. No.
Let me answer your question, yes.
what's that? Yes to
You
what?
asked if any officer could do that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I guess I don't understand why, maybe I gotta look into this. I mean, you know, you go into the larger cities and what have you, you don't mow your yard, you're gonna get a ticket and you're gonna pay a fine, and then they're gonna come over and mow your yard for you, and then they're gonna charge you for that. I mean, there's some motivators there.
I just think we have some pretty good ordinance on there. I'm not saying all of them. Some of them probably need revamped or what have you. I think we need somehow to enforce the ordinance we already have.
That's right.
And
We need to do it, but Mike says, in the bigger town, there's no question.
See, right now,
But we need little teeth.
you can only go after one at a time because it is expensive, but there's no bite. There's no bite.
That's why I thought this is a better deal. We want to clean things up and do something, here's a way to go. Next thing I got, there's a leak on Allen Street, a leak on High Street, at the
Yes.
Wood Snitch.
Yes.
When we can fix that?
When, well, they've been fixing other things, and I can give you a list of what they've been fixing. But anyway, one of the detours, Willard, just so you know, is that the EPA came in. There's a CSO, which is a combined sewer outlet, that they gave us till the end of the month to get it corrected. So they're down there trying to get that thing. They're trying to bust through a concrete pipe with an air hammer so they can get in there and get this thing corrected. But when they shut that down, they may have to kill the entire community. So what they're going to do is they're going to get in there. There's a main valve there that comes directly coming out of the water tower. They're going to get that all opened up to see if they do pack that old valve umpteen times, if that valve has to be cut out. And if they do, then they're going to have to give enough notice that water may be off in the entire community for however long. So I can't tell you that they're going to fix it this week or next week.
What are they doing down at Jonathan's?
Where?
Down in front of the feet of the...
You have a leak.
Had a leak, but I know that.
Oh, Jonathan Fields. There was a leak there that reared its ugly face back during the winter. I don't know if you remember that big mound of ice. So they went down there. When they got in there, there's an old lead line. They started working on the lead line broke. So that's what happens when you get into the old lead lines.
So what, we still got it open for? What are we going to do?
They fixed the sidewalk today. They put flowable fill under there. They let the flowable fill set up a little bit. Today the ready mix company came back, and so they screened off the sidewalk, and then there'll be hot asphalt out on the street. So that's the process.
The water department did that?
Did which?
Did the concrete and the asphalt work?
Yes.
That's a pretty good job.
Water in the streets.
Yeah, that's a good job.
Is Jonathan paying anything for that water line going in there because it's from the...
No.
Is that the way it's going to be down Main Street from now on?
If there's a leak, there's a leak there. So.
Any other non-agenda items? Larry, on the next, unless there's any objections, on the next council meeting, I'd like to explore some teeth on clutter in yards. We can start there. I'd like to start seeing some bite. So
We were
yes, sir.
talking about possibly having an ordinance against boarded up windows. What happened with that? You had asked about
We
that.
had some.
Is that not
The-
something we can do?
Well, you don't need, the ordinance doesn't have to say specifically.
There is
windows.
an ordinance.
The ordinances
that deal
that we have-
specifically with the boarded windows, but the ordinances that we have in place right cover that. So
So are we going after the...
I'm not, I
I
guess.
know. I would encourage our police force to be actively
no,
going
no,
after
no.
ordinance
well, it
violations.
sounds like they are, but it also
Here's
sounds
the
like
problem, is that we're in pretty deep on South John, okay? I'm working on 2 others, and that's where you can only do so many.
There's only so much time and money.
what I'm
It's not the
requesting.
ti- and it's really not the time, Josh, it's the money. You can only do so many.
Yeah.
What I'm requesting is that we find a way to compensate the city for this, and we start looking at fines, and that if there's a ticket that's issued, there is a fine that comes with it. Now, honestly, I hope there's no fines given. I hope people comply. But if it's always the same thing, why bother? This is gonna take 6 months to 9 months, and let's just get some teeth to it.
And the other side of that, Mayor, is that I'm gonna go back to 345 South John, we have a lien. So you may never see that money for another 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. And a lot of times, that's how some of this is gonna play out. So you're not gonna see that cash come back to offset the attorney, not immediately, so.
Well, I don't necessarily know if you need an attorney when you give them a ticket. So if you get a,
No, if you have to have a hearing officer. If you want
going that direction, again, I just, at the next council meeting,
We need to research it and find out what this, I'd call that woman and find out what she done and how much it costs. That's what I would do.
I'll get that one.
yeah, I'll go ahead.
I don't think excuses need to quit about what we can't do, we need to start doing something around here. We got all these ordinances on the book, we don't ever write any tickets or do anything, just like Max says, they come to us and want us to do something. I don't want to be the ones up here doing it, that's not our job.
Any other non-agenda items? And I do appreciate you, Larry, don't buy any.
If you want the police chief in here at the next meeting, guys, to discuss this.
I'm not even
I
mad
don't think there's any discussion with him.
Okay.
I'm not upset one iota. I want to give them the tools that they need to make this start happening. I mean, we go to a city, or we go to these community meetings, the place is a mess. I said, well, we'll deal with it. It'll take 6 months to a year. We'll talk about it. We'll run up a big bill, and hopefully something gets done. By then, you got 50 other houses in town. Write a ticket. They can either pay for this so that we can fund whatever we need to fund, so we can go after them much more aggressively.
And there'll be some upset people, but
Sure.
that goes along with it.
You know what? It's a far greater town of upset people that the values of their homes keep going down. You got a lot more upset people coming in day in, day out, saying my business is going to fail because I ain't got enough people in this damn town to support it. So it's time we do something.
That's right.
Again, not upset with you. The work that you do is good. It's just getting to the point where we need to get something done or continue to do what we're doing. I'm not for that right now. So any other non-agenda items? We have one public comment. Jerry McKinley, you have the floor.
Well, after the last incident, I took Scott up there and showed him the city's farm ground and stuff, and showed him where the tile holes are washed out at. He saw the tile that comes through from the north down there to the train trestle. It's running full blast. I mean, we're in a drought situation right now, and there's got to be something.
Jerry did speak to me about
North
that.
of
Yeah.
me, north of there, that's leaking.
Something, we got a lot,
Yeah, because, it was shooting out. It wasn't just draining out, it was shooting out, wasn't it, Scott?
Did you take Larry out there, or Larry, did you see that yet, sir?
No, Scott and I talked about it about a week ago. And what I told Jerry before the meeting, I can have Calvin go out there, he can grab a sample, he can see if there's chlorine and fluoride in it. If there is, then that would be identified, but, he's not losing a lot of water, so, I don't know. But that is one thing that he could do, to see if it's city water.
Yeah, we talked about the big tile. I think that big tile is a lost cause. I was talking to Larry about some kind of different plan with that, and he had a good idea. Larry had a good idea about just making that kind of a ditch rather than a tile. But that's backed all the way up. The smaller tile, it looks like it's coming from over by your property. I don't know where that water's coming from.
Well, it's coming from north down.
Right. So,
We got a water line leaking, or?
Well, he's saying Calvin's not seeing any water,
No.
any loss of water, so. Larry's gonna,
But you just said tonight you got leaks.
Well, we do have leaks, but
no, you're talking, what, on Main, like on Main
like
Street?
that
is what
was
they
on
were
Wright
talking?
Street.
No, every time
But
it
the
rains.
treatment- that tile runs right beside the treatment plant out there north.
Yeah, I'm
On
not
John
a water
Street.
guy, I don't know, so.
Well, anything that's running that quick now,
Yeah.
Because we haven't had rain in what, 3 weeks, 2-3 weeks?
No, we haven't had hardly
There's something
any.
major that's
Can
going
you,
on.
we get Calvin out there as soon as possible, would appreciate that, but Jerry, I appreciate you kind of filling that for us.
And talking about this mowing, me and the elevator, we go to the railroad property, how you gonna find them?
Well,
Question.
that's a good question, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we got sick of looking at it, so,
And not only you, but chief of police and also city manager was out there working one time too. So I'd love for them to give us that property and we put up a nice little trail.
Yes, we
But
would.
that's probably not going to happen with them. So, sir, thank you. Anything else? Entertain a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Call.
Jenkins?
Yes.
Horn?
Yes.
Harden?
Yes.
McKinley? Testori?
Yes.